Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Sunday wrap. Good to have you again for those listening, and I'm joined... God, how am I going? Joined as usual by Macca and Nikki. How you going, guys?
Very good, thanks.
Going very well.
I was just, trying to wind up with a big intro and forgot that my tongue doesn't work.
Well, we are an amateur podcast, so we have to remind people of that every so often.
That's right. And every time we sort of inch towards professionalism, I'm very good at just dragging us back. So, never mind. Pretty decent round of footy, guys, on the weekend.
Yeah,
games today. Insane.
But the whole weekend, there's no such thing as a real blowout game.
It's just a bizarre year, isn't it? Just crazy. So many strange results, and obviously our first draw for the year as well, which didn't help us at all. So let's get right into the results for the weekend, and then we can have a chat about the Crows game. Friday night saw a very convincing Sydney Swans defeat Melbourne. 11 goals, 1985 to 7 goals, 850, a margin of 35 points. D's probably a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, but I have to say this. It sounds stupid at this stage, but the Swans, they are my favourite for the flag.
And they're not even in the 8.
Yeah, but I still think they will be, and they're going to cause havoc once they get there.
Don't be fooled by June form, Macca. It's a bit early yet, I reckon. I mean, they're certainly the form team of the comp, you'd say, quite safely, but long way to go yet. Saturday...
They have a lovely team balance. That's what I like about
them. They have very lovely team balance. It's lovely.
And just basically, Bug will get swatted on Tuesday night, presumably.
Yeah, well, you'd think you'd get the same as Hooley. That's what I reckon. 4 or 5, maybe.
Has to get 6.
Why 6?
Well, because he was looking.
Yes, because not really, not to the same extent,
not as blatantly as what Bug was.
And on top of that, but we've had the incident. We've had the principle shown that the AFL appealed and it went up to 4 because they don't want to tolerate such things. And immediately, the very next week, Bug does this. So I would say it's a certain he'll get at least 6.
You agree with that, Nick?
Yeah, for me, it kind of goes back to a similarity to that Jonas hit a couple of years ago, which got 6 as well. Although his was 4. No, was it? His was upgraded. His was because he had a bad record.
Yeah.
So, Bug doesn't have a record, even though pretty much most people know he's a bit of a sniper. That's the way he plays, and this is the first time he's actually really been caught. And Melbourne actually have form with this. So is this a case of Lewis? Is this bad influence?
Oh, I don't know. Look, for me, yes, Bug hit him front on. The difference is that he did actually hit him front on rather than across the back. And also... the damage wasn't as great. Yes, he missed some time, but he's not going to miss 2 weeks like Jed Lamb. So, don't know.
Ugly look, though. Absolutely ugly look.
Yeah.
And I think if the AFL are serious, they're going to have to say, well, we go 4 to the other chap. Now it's up to 6. You keep coming back, it'll keep going up.
And what do you reckon about the send-off rule, hullabaloo?
Yeah, look, we could talk forever about that because there's good points and there's bad points, isn't there?
It's how to police it. And I don't trust...
any good... No, I agree with... Sorry, Nikki, I've cut you off there. Keep going.
Oh, I was just going to say I don't trust the AFL in being able to adjudicate it correctly because they can't adjudicate the basic rules correctly.
Which is why it'll never happen. If, and it's such an if it won't happen, they were capable of getting it right at the time, then I would be all for it, but they never will get it right, so it'll never come in.
No, the umpires can't have another reason to interpret rules, and I just think it's fraught with danger. I mean, it works in the lower leagues, but the lower leagues don't have the high stakes like the top line AFL, and I don't think it's got any place but I could almost guarantee that it's going to be trialled in the off season or some rubbish. I don't know. They'll look at it.
I actually dispute that a little bit, Phoenix, just because it's the way umpires are taught in the lower leagues is differently from the way you're actually taught as an AFL umpire, because in terms of reporting somebody in the AFL, you don't have to do it because everything gets reviewed. You can note something and not actually report them at the time. They actually go to video. And you just look at their goal umpires, and particularly this weekend, how many times they were put in the wrong... They're actually told to go to the wrong positions. So they always keep calling for these bloody score reviews instead of trusting their own judgment. So in terms of umpires, they're actually taught to not trust their own judgment and to not actually be as on the ball as they should be, because that's sitting there. It's not a deliberate, but that's an underlying problem because they're relying so heavily on vision.
Yeah,
that I think is the issue.
The one that really took the cake on the weekend when it was they went back to the vision upstairs for whether it was a juggle mark over the line or whether it was out of bounds. And I thought, my God, it'll be used for anything and everything the way this is going.
Well, and that's been snuck in because we have a score review system, and I don't understand why the video was referred to for something that wasn't a scoring issue. But we've seen the same with cricket, that the officials, as soon as they've got the video there, they're reluctant to make a call simply because they don't want to look like an idiot. And you can understand that.
Yeah.
So, and look, I think it's fraught with danger. The only way I could see it working is if there was a match day official in the stands reviewing situations. But our game is too fast and dynamic to really tolerate that. So I just think leave it as it is. It's worked long enough. We've dealt with far more aggressive and violent eras of football than the current era. So I think it's a storm in a teacup. Anyway, let's keep going with the results. Because you're right, Macca, we could go on about that one all night. We had the Suns 18 goals 10, 118, defeating North 14-15, 99. Gary Ablett having a lazy, what was it, 38 touches or something or other. Jared Lyons, our cast-off, getting best on ground numbers as well. Suns not going too badly right now.
Very pleased for Lyons because he was... I always saw him as a vanilla plotter here, but he has developed and grown, given the opportunity to be one of the leading men there at the Gold Coast. And he's gone from being an average footballer to, he's at the moment, you'd have to say, a very good footballer.
But he's been given the opportunity to spend longer time in there because they need him to.
Correct.
So he probably would have been similar to that if we were going to give him as much time in our midfield. But does that mean who goes out? Is that Matt Crouch? Is it Brad?
He wouldn't have got that opportunity here.
No.
We had the first draw of the season. Giants getting up at the death over the Cats. Tommy Hawkins missing a shot on goal to win the match. 10 goals, 8 apiece. I didn't watch the match, but by all accounts it was obviously pretty thrilling. And the Cats still finding a way without Selwood. It's a pretty decent result for them, really, even though they didn't get the 4 points.
Well, they had two Selwoods, really. There were two Selwoods between, but Hawkins had that set shot, which was the last kick of the game. The siren actually went as he was walking in, and as usually missed to the right, which I would have bet money he wouldn't have kicked it. But I'm not saying it was an easy kick. It was about somewhere between a 30 and a 45 degree angle, and but if he kicked it, I don't know. You say that the draw's no good, but who do you want to win it then? No, but I think these two winning doesn't help us either.
Yeah, and see, the thing is that this season is so close. I think the draw is actually kind of irrelevant in a way because we have to keep winning in order to stay up the top of the ladder where we want to finish.
That was my point, because the winner would have been the first three teams, counting ourselves. These are the other two teams. So one of them, either of them winning, wasn't going to help us.
No, but in terms of a top two situation, it's actually worse now because our percentage advantage against GWS and the Cats is now diminished. So, yes, we have to keep winning, but the simple fact is that it makes it easier for, like, the Cats now. If they win next week and we lose, they instantly go above us, even though they otherwise wouldn't. Anyway,
I understand your point.
Moot point, doesn't really matter.
You did miss the Bulldogs West Coast Eagles game.
I haven't got there yet.
That was the second game played.
I haven't got there yet. Just relax.
He's doing it in a different order.
Yeah, I'm doing it in the order that I've got it on the screen, all right?
He's pretending he's the Channel 9 footy show that never do anything in order.
That's right, because I'm going by, trying to keep people interested for as long as possible. Coincidentally, the West Coast Eagles had a really good win against the Western Bulldogs on Saturday as well. 87-80. The Bulldogs fighting back towards the end there, but the West Coast Eagles holding on for a pretty good away win, one of the few ones, and Bullies are in a bit of strife.
Yeah, that really surprised me. I actually tipped the Bullies because you looked at the run that was out and Hearn being out as well for the Eagles, and I'm just like, nah, this won't bode well. But that probably tells you more about where the Bulldogs are than where the Eagles are.
Really not travelling well.
They're not travelling well at all, are they? I mean, if they can't beat West Coast Eagles at home, they're not going to beat them anywhere. And is it this week we've got the Bulldogs?
Yeah, we got them Friday night.
Yep.
Be disappointed we didn't wrap them up, but of course everybody lives against us. But we'll see how we go.
Yeah, we have a habit of playing teams into form. Saturday night, the Tigers got the job done over Port Power, coming over the top in the latter stages of that game. 11 goals, 10-76 to the Power 8, 15-63. Tigers up by 13. And what is it, 360-odd days since Port beat a top 8 team now?
I think it was 160, I think. It was North Melbourne last year.
Yeah, so that's 300 if you count the off-season.
Okay.
Long time.
Yeah.
And but I tell you what, though, Nicky, we got the double. We got the win, and Port got the loss. And I tell you what, they'll be calling out the tarp soon. They're under 40,000 again.
That's a really bad crowd for a
That
for a
was
Saturday
incredibly
night.
bad.
Yeah. Saturday night, a good game. Richmond played a decent style of footy, although it was a bit of a dour match. But, it was a very important match for Port. And to get under 40,000, and particularly because Richmond probably had 8,000 there.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Richmond have quite a bit of support in this state, and they all turned up. And just the vision of them jumping up and down and singing the song on the hill was hilarious.
Yeah. I think the Kool-Aid might be running out again down at Alberton. Today we had the Lions with a really good win come from behind over the Bombers. The Lions 13-12-90 to Essendon 11-16-82. Lions on the improve slowly but surely.
Yeah, well, I've been one of their greatest critics, but I have to say that...
Yes.
Have you? Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, they're no bloody good.
All of them, they're all shit.
But what I watched very closely. They've got a handful of young kids that are going to be good players, and the guy up at full forward, is it Hipwood?
Hipwood. He's a gun.
He is going to be a genuine talent. I mean,
once he actually figures out that he needs to do some defensive stuff, considering how fast he is.
Oh yeah.
He was slacking off a couple of times, which is when Essendon got a little bit of a run out of their forward line. It's like, you should have chased there, buddy. The other one I would really like on our list is Harris Andrews.
Yeah, went well.
Yeah, and they've got a handful of young kids, and which is obviously what they're going to base their future on. And they obviously will be a much better team once those guys get a few games under their belt.
I just love the fact that Fagan disappeared. He hid from the cameras he didn't want to watch in the last quarter.
I could not believe that.
This is what happens when you coach a young side, Macca.
Yeah.
Oh, frustrating.
Yeah. We had the Hawks getting up over the Magpies, and that's just about the
Bastards.
Magpies done, I think. 18-10, 118. Hawthorn to Collingwood, 14-10, 94. Maybe Buckley's death knell, I think. I don't think the Maggies can make the 8 from here.
It was unfortunate because I was flicking back and forward between that game and the other two that were on. And to lose, they lost Goldsack, then they lost Moore in the last quarter. They actually had the run on. Collingwood was starting to get over the top of them. But just,
Nikki.
But those losses just killed their structure. And watching the start of it, you could see Hawthorn were playing how they played against us. And Collingwood, actually, they didn't quite negate it as well in the first quarter, but they got it into track in the second. So I think Hawthorn are now trying that style of play, and not just on us.
Yeah, it's fairly typical of their style anyway, really. They probably don't have the personnel to really pull it off these days, but well, not consistently anyway.
A variation of what they used to do, but basically allowing for their weakened personnel, really. But I'm with Nicky. I thought Collingwood were a little bit unlucky that they lost key personnel at the wrong time, and in some ways, I often think that Buckley's had a bit of a curse put on him because he never gets much luck like that.
Yeah, you make your own luck though, Macca. It's a conversation for Tuesday night. We might have a chat about Buckley on Tuesday night. The last game of the round, St Kilda getting up over Fremantle. Fremantle pushed them pretty hard, but St Kilda a pretty good away win, 12-17, 89 to 12-8, 80, a margin of 9, and keeps the Sainters in the hunt.
Now, I'll tell you what, if you're a Freo supporter, you'd be crying your guts out because that's 2 games in a row they've lost in the last few seconds of the game. When I say the last few seconds, in the last 90 seconds or so of the game, they look like winning the game for most of the game, and just not at the end.
Yeah, just lacking a little bit of poise, Fremantle at the moment.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
It was a fast game.
But they have got a young star in the making. I think is it Sean Darcy, his name, the young ruckman.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came
Darcy.
from nowhere. I didn't even know about him.
So he was a TAC Cup. He was the best ruckman last year, and he was that size.
Yeah, right.
I tell you what, he's going to be a gun, absolute gun. He came in, I think it was last week, and dominated. He's dominated again this week when he came on. I tell you, he's a big, solid boy too.
And like O'Brien, he's a lefty.
There you go. All right, and on to the game that we all care about the most, and it was Adelaide defeating a very gallant Carlton, 13-11, 89 to 12 goals, 5, 77. Margin of 12 points. Any win's a good win. What do you guys reckon?
Well, I thought to myself before the game, there's 2 things that are going to be certain about this game. The first one is Cruiser will beat Jacobs, and I did say that in the preview. The Cruiser at the moment, I think, is the form ruckman in the competition, and Carlton will give us a very hard, tough game. And in the end, as has been reported in the paper and elsewhere, we had to win ugly. And the good thing is, we did.
Yeah, I was really interested to see how we responded to last week. I thought Carlton tried similar tactics the setup for Hawthorn did against us. The only problem is they don't have the skill level in terms of those short kicks, and that pulled them undone. And by the look of it, we actually had a way to counter that. I was also quite pleased that Teague, when he was interviewed at the quarter-time break, he said, yeah, we did that, and we didn't work quick enough to narrow the ground. So you actually had a coach going, yeah, we did something wrong. We're going to try and rectify that.
Yeah, I felt like it was a good lesson, I think, for us against a team that probably lacked a little bit of class when it counted, and also was stymied in the last by a few key injuries, or a couple in particular, Marchbank and the other lad, what's his name? Wadering. Yeah. Both went down in the last quarter, one with a shoulder, one with a knee, and at critical times, and I think that really did them no favours in the clinches. But I think we're still learning how to get through this defensive mode. I felt like overall we positioned ourselves better from about the second quarter onwards. We pushed up a bit higher. We got hold of Doherty so that he wasn't running rampant. And I felt like our forwards played a little bit smarter as well and played a bit higher up the ground too. So it wasn't pretty, and there's still a lot of work to do, but I just feel like Carlton were set up to win that game, and they played the style that we hate, and to get over them is probably, it's about as good an outcome as you'd want, really, under the circumstances.
Yeah, there's some individual performances like Smith, for example, I thought played as we've been wanting him to play and how he hasn't been playing. And I also thought you made the mention last week about Brad Crouch. Looks like he's building, and he is building because he actually took it to another level this week.
Yeah, he looks to be finding his feet a little bit. I'm still critical of his disposal, particularly in tight.
Yeah, there were some shockers.
But we'll get to that in the individuals. But overall, the only I told you so I want to give you this week, Macca, is Jake Lever. I told you he wasn't a key position defender, and he's bloody not. He got towed up by Curnow.
Oh no, he did. Actually, I was amazed. I knew that young Curnow's got a lot of promise, but I was amazed.
He's got more than a lot.
No, I know. I was amazed. He gave Lever a toweling. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm not being a dickhead, but it highlighted to me what Jake's areas to improve are, and his one-on-one contested, when there's a bit of body on body, he doesn't do so well. He's very good when he's got a leap and an unrestricted run at the contest, and
and when Lairdy doesn't block him.
Or vice versa. Those two are horrendous. They get in each other's way all the time. I think Lever took Laird out later in the match as well.
He did.
Yeah, again.
Again.
I was going to say about the sixth time this year.
Yeah, but I think, Macca, it kind of illustrated what I was trying to get at with you in last week's conversation about Jake, that as it stands at the moment, he's a bit light for a key position defence role. You wouldn't call Curnow a beast. He's a well-built lad, but he's not a beast by any stretch. But just as it stands at the moment, Jake's probably at the crossroads in terms of how he develops. He either puts on a massive muscle and turns into a beast, or he picks up a yard of pace and really turns into a damaging rebound defender. At the moment, he's a bit each way, I think.
I think if there's the issue, because he's had a knee injury, you don't stack on the weight.
Well, and that's a fair point. And I think he's agile enough. Like he's certainly good in tight. He has composure in tight.
There was that play, I think, in the last quarter or third quarter?
Yeah,
where he basically just threw 5 Carlton players and none of them could stop him. Like, one of them was like, these were senior Carlton players.
Yeah. And it wasn't because he was zippy quick like a Rioli. It was just because he didn't panic with the ball. And that's good quality.
But I reckon that Lever didn't have a good game in the sense that I thought he was doing a lot of ball watching rather than minding his man, in the sense that Curnow was often in the most favourable position with Lever trying to get back to a spoiling position, but having been guilty of watching the ball and watching where it's going to rather than minding his man.
Look, I think there was enough one-on-one contest for me to be fairly comfortable in my position, Macca.
I'm not saying he wasn't beaten in those, but I'm just saying that he was also guilty of that as well, in the sense which didn't help the situation.
No, and I think Carlton used Curnow pretty well. They kept him deep, which kept Jake occupied. Didn't see Jake get up the ground too much. Anyway, let's move on to the head-to-heads.
We saw Talia actually then take that role because they kept living up. So he did that. Yeah. And the other thing, Macca and I were just talking before we came on air, and the one thing I really liked was our midfield setup. That we'd set up for us to win the ball. And as soon as that didn't happen, we actually switched into defensive mindset once they got possession, and we absolutely pressured the hell out of Cripps because that is Carlton's only go-to.
Yeah,
in extracting out. And I actually thought they did that pretty well.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's look at some head-to-heads. And Carlton spanked us in most areas. Certainly outpossessed us 394 to 353. Kicked the ball quite a bit. 240 kicks, 150 handballs. We went almost 1-1. 185 kicks, 168 handballs. Their kick-to-handball ratio probably shows that they were trying to do a bit of a Hawthorn, actually, and just chip the ball around. I was really interested by Bolton's first quarter tactics. I reckon what Bolton tried to do was get a couple of cheapies early and banked on a slow start from us, which we're quite, prone to
notorious.
do. And when he only let it get to 4 goals, and it was almost like a switch was flicked at 4 goals, and Carlton just set up completely differently. They slowed the tempo right down for a couple of minutes. They denied us the ball. They reset. They had Doherty go back, and they went defensive. And from that point on, it turned into a struggle. But I reckon Bolton early on, he's a smart bugger. I reckon he took his chance and thought, well, let's see if we can catch him on the hop with a couple. Do you guys see it that way?
Yeah, I think you summed it up very well. And also, just adding a little bit on Bolton, I think he's got the potential to be a very good coach, I think, because he's a very proactive coach.
Yeah, I liked some of the things that he did. I liked the way he backed him in early. Still lacking a bit of cattle, but he's had a good teacher in Clarkson, so... Marks 117 to Carlton, 73 to ours. They certainly used that kick possession game quite a bit, and that shows in the marks. We out-tackled them 87-83. I felt our physicality all through the game was up a notch or two on previous weeks. I felt we were far more aggressive in and around the ball. The only thing I'd complain about with regards to our tackles is that a lot of them didn't really stick.
Yeah,
the hand ones rather than the total arms.
Yep.
Well, the first couple, Sloanie's first couple, where normally you know that he would stick those tackles and that they just didn't work.
Yeah, but they were. I know what you're talking about. They were reaching rather than getting there and grabbing them.
Yeah, they weren't body tackles, were they? They were sort of last ditch, try to grab a jumper sort of tackles, and we did quite well in close, but there were a lot of times where we didn't wrap the arms up and they were able to work free. Sauce got towed up by Cruiser, I thought.
Yep.
Carlton 51 to 40 hit-outs. I know Sauce got more hit-outs to advantage, but it didn't look good to the naked eye.
No, that's his biggest hiding for the year. I've been watching. I've got Cruiser in my dream team, and I've been watching him And as I said, in my opinion, at the moment, I think he's the number one ruckman in the comp.
He's always been very damaging around the ground, and that's his real forte, and that's what he did. It was kind of interesting. I think it was like the first or it might have been the second quarter. They put up the ranking points, and of course they had quite a few Carlton players, and then there's Jacobs, who's up there in the ranking points, and no Cruiser, and I'm going, this is why I don't like stats like that. Because if you were watching the game, yeah, Cruiser was ahead of him by that stage.
Well, Cruiser does two things. He's got a very good leap. He gets off the ground, which poor old Sam can't. And then secondly, when the ball hits the ground, he acts like a big rover chasing it as well. So he's like a dog chasing a ball. Woof, woof, he loves getting into it.
Yeah, certainly the form ruckman in the comp at the moment. Where else were we? Freeze weren't too bad. I thought the umpiring was okay-ish. Not too bad. Nothing really to complain about. Still, overall, hate incorrect disposal not being called, but that's just part of the game at the moment. Our scoring efficiency inside 50... our scoring efficiency per disposals was still reasonably good, 14 disposals per scoring shot to Carlton's 23. So we're still we got back to a decent percentage. Remember last week our percentage or our disposals per scoring shot was horrendous.
Yeah.
Didn't have quite as many inside 50s. The ball was played between the two arcs quite a bit, was 50 apiece. Contested posies we lost by 11. Uncontested posies we lost by, 25. They used the ball more effectively than we did. They took 23 contested marks to 10, which was an area where we really got handed a lesson. We won the clearances by 5, and that's about it for the head-to-heads.
How many of those contested marks were Kerno on lever? I wonder.
Yeah, probably a few. How many marks did Kerno take? Where is he? Charlie Kerno took 11 marks for the game.
And because he was that mostly lead up forward.
Yep.
A lot of the time. And they're still
quite a few were.
Yeah, and they're actually classed as contested marks. So I reckon that's where most of those are.
Well, Kerno had 7 contested possessions. Is it the contested marks doesn't flow into that, does it?
Yes, they do.
Contested marks, he had 4.
Well, there's a few of them.
Marks.
Yeah.
Liam Jones had 5. Absolutely towed up Tex 1-on-1. Although,
I tell you, I couldn't believe that Tex was getting beaten by this character.
No. The past 3 games, Macca, he has been unbelievable. His timing and he's always been such a good mark, and his timing has just been impeccable.
But I've watched this guy play footy for a long, long time.
Yeah, but have you watched him for the last 3 games?
Yes, I have. I know he's having a purple patch, but for God's sake, Tex has got any pride. He shouldn't let that guy beat him.
Yeah, but I think we've got to come to the realisation with Tex that he's just not a contested mark player.
No.
And he's
but then
a
again,
lead-up
neither
forward.
is Buddy.
No. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm
Yeah,
just
I know.
saying that...
I'm backing you up.
Yeah. I think we need to... I'd love Tex to be taking the marks he was taking a few years ago. But he just doesn't seem up to it anymore. He doesn't seem to have the confidence in his leap. He doesn't seem to have the hands for it. And he's much more convincing up the ground. And I actually like him playing up the ground with JJ a bit deeper. And I thought, Tex didn't have a great game, but I thought he did a couple of key things, and that Candy goal towards the end was a little inspirational. So
That was lovely.
Ripper, yeah, that was Ripper. But
that was the captain's
so
goal.
hard, he almost put the ball into the wing grandstand.
So he actually didn't need to do the candy.
No, that's right. Oh dear. Anyway, let's have a look at some individual stats. Leading possession winners, we had Smith and Brad Crouch both having 30. Brodie Smith 18 kicks, 12 handballs, 6 marks, 1 goal, 5 inside 50s, 8 contested possessions, 76%. Welcome back, Brodie. Best game he's played for a long time.
Yeah. I reckon his best game for 2 or 3 years, I reckon.
Well, and the reason? No one sat on him. They didn't have that defensive forward sitting on Brodie Smith.
Because normally that's where they would use Doherty, but they then wanted Doherty to be
exactly
the other quarterback, and so just Brodie went, okay.
Yeah, and it shows you the effectiveness of that tactic of sitting on Brodie. He really is an outlet player for us. 5 inside 50s can't be discounted, and I haven't got his metres gained, but I bet you it would have been pretty decent.
Yeah, I was going to ask what his metres gains were.
Yeah, I might try and find it. I think it's on the AFL stats that I don't have at the moment. Brad Crouch, what did you guys think of Brad Crouch's game? He had 14 kicks, 16 handballs, so a good ratio.
I love this game.
Yeah,
I love
5 marks, 10 tackles, 5 inside 50s,
Yeah.
10 contested possessions, went at 70% disposal efficiency, 6 clearances.
Yeah, look, his disposal's still not exactly where we want it at, but apart from that, I just love the way he attacked the ball and his physicality. I thought he is now that's the closest he's got to the form we know he can provide, and I just think you did mention that there's been signs in the last couple of weeks without being there, but I thought this week there were not only signs that he was there, and I'm looking forward to him going on with it from now on.
Yeah, there was some dodgy kicks and handballs that could have been better. But I thought overall I was quite pleased with the game from Brad. As Mackie said, it was an improvement. And I just really liked his defensive intensity.
Yeah. Just as an aside, Brady had 617 metres gained, which was
acceptable.
What you want. My take on Brad, I liked his game in general. I hated his stoppage work. Just because and it's not just Brad, it's all of them in there. We continually miss the overlap handball out of congestion. We don't use the outlet handball. And Mac, I'll be interested in your view on this as a old school midfielder. I don't feel like we use the outlet handball very well out of stoppage.
No, that's not the way we play it. But to do that, you actually have to have a very, very slick midfielder as your recipient, because he's got to be able to do two things. He's got to be able to guard a man, if you like, but then seeing that we're going to get the ball, then position himself for that release ball. And I don't think we've got that player that's intelligent enough for that.
No, I felt like both Matt and Brad at times were guilty of handballing to stationary targets and handballing to get themselves out of pressure rather than to create. I didn't see a lot of creative. A bit more from Matt than Brad. I didn't see a lot of creative handball from Brad. And I'm not ragging on Brad because it's his best game for quite some time. And if he racks up 30 every week and with those defensive numbers and that output, more than happy with that work. But it's one of the things that frustrates me at the moment is our clearance systems. That hat kick forward is just completely contradicting our forward setup, which is generally undermanned. So I don't know. We should be running it a bit more. And I felt like in the first few weeks we were getting that run off the bloke coming in off halfback and off the wings, Macca. But we don't seem to be getting that run.
The issue I have with our wings when it's the centre setups, and I've noticed this for a while, they come in too fast to that centre stoppage, and the opposition will always hang back. And if they win it, it goes straight out to them, and our guys got to turn around and double back and try and chase them, and just can't get there. I think we need our wings to stay that little bit out.
It's a really good observation, Nikki, and it's a bit like crumbing. When you're crumbing a marking contest, you've got to hit the contest at pace, which means that you've actually got to stay back. You don't want to get to the ball too soon, because then you're just stuck underneath the pack, basically. And it's the same with those blokes running in. They've actually got to time their run so that they're there at pace to take the ball, rather than basically running in to the stoppage before the balls come out and then the ball comes out to them stationary. And you're dead set right, we do it continually.
I wonder though, is it because of our personnel that we want more numbers at that contest?
I think so, because Carlton had Gibbs he's an outlet type player. He can do both, earn his own ball, but he can also be that outlet player that you were talking about, Phoenix. He's a master at it. We don't really have that player. I think the good sides have them. But I don't think we're quite a good side yet.
Well, I think the issue for mine, Macca, is we're not generally losing stoppage numbers that terribly. I mean, we lost them against Carlton, but invariably we're even or in front. The problem for mine has always been that second possession, that next possession, and to me, that next possession is usually following a hat kick forward.
Correct.
I'd just love it to be an outlet give to an Atkins or to a Cameron running off the back of the square or a Miller or someone like that. At pace.
You are on the money, because that's how you carve the opposition defence up, because there's no way you can defend against that.
Yeah. The other thing I felt with our centre stoppages is that at times we were terribly attacking with our positioning, and often Gibbs was left free at centre bounces. And given that Cruiser was doing quite well in terms of hit-outs, I felt Carlton got a few cheapies, not because we weren't aggressive in close. It was more that we just weren't in the right spots.
Actually, I think the ones that Gibbs actually won, those nice, really clear ones that he was winning, was actually Jacob's taps. He was just reading Jacob's taps because he knows them.
Yeah, true. Although I noticed Cruiser hitting it backwards a few times to Gibbs. I just felt like it was a real... I don't know. It wasn't how we usually line up. To be honest, I didn't think so. Anyway, unless
that's what I noticed. It was a different setup, and we would actually switch it. Yeah, and the fact that we were actually being defensively minded, which we haven't for such a long time, and that's one of our criticisms, is sometimes we need to recognise we're not winning those. We need to find a way to get that ball back or to negate them. I was pleased to actually see our midfield doing that, which means the coaching staff has recognised that and is making a bit of a change.
Yeah,
not quite working.
But as you said, Nikki, you know, they were trying to negate the influence of Cripps at those bounces.
I think they did.
What do you normally do when your ruckman's losing, Macca? What do you reckon?
I rode to the opposite. I used to row the opposition ruck, just work it out.
Yeah, but I reckon you also play man on man in the middle if your ruckman's losing.
Well, if he had a favourite spot to hit it to, that you just went and stood on that guy.
Yeah.
Then it became a question whether you could beat him for the ball rather than anything else.
Yeah, exactly. I just felt like leaving Gibbs alone at times was a pretty dangerous thing to do, and it gave Cruiser the option, which he took a few times, in my opinion, to knock the ball back, particularly when he was stuck under the bounce a bit and Sauce coming over the top. He kind of just helped it along. Anyway, let's push on. Matt Crouch had 29 disposals, 12 and 17, 1 goal, a telling goal, 5 tackles, the one inside 50, 14 contested possessions, a little bit more inside from Matt this week, went at 76%, 9 clearances, so he was certainly in and under. Both him and Dougie had big numbers inside. How'd you see Matt's game?
Loved it. Matty Crouch has had an A-grade season. He really has. I don't think he's barely played a bad game all year, and his work rate is fantastic. His disposal was a little bit sloppy early in the piece. It's improving, and he's also learning how to get out in the open. And I think he's going to go and be a very, very good footballer for us for a very long time.
Yeah, I really liked his game. For mine, even though like Douglas got more numbers and Brad got more numbers, I actually thought Matt was probably actually the more influential. Was our best player.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I reckon he certainly had more of an influence on the game than Brad did in terms of outcomes. I'd like to have known his score involvements. Or as that sort of stat, but he covered a lot of ground. He used the boot, and I felt like I just feel like he's just maturing as a player. And you got to be a good player to get 30 touches a week, don't you?
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah. Richie Douglas, a bit contentious. 18 kicks, 7 handballs for 25 touches, 2 marks, 3 tackles, 7 inside 50s. 13 contested posies, 40% disposal efficiency, 2 goal assists, 8 clearances.
Yeah, we know what the bad side was. But one thing I'll say about Dougie, his work rate, you can't criticise his work rate at the moment. And I thought his work rate was very good again this week. The end result wasn't always as good as it should have been, but at least the bugger is trying his arse off at the moment.
Yeah, he was playing Sloane's role because we kept Sloane out of the middle until he started to work into the game. And I noticed in
correct, Nikki.
In the last quarter, Sloane actually went back into the middle, but for majority of the game, he was playing off half forward. It was a good game. It could have been better.
Yeah, that sums it up.
I think that's kind of where I put it at.
Let himself down under pressure, Richie. But you can't argue with 8 clearances.
No.
And 13 contested possessions. He did burn it though, but
he wasn't the only one.
He wasn't the only one. So I guess you give him a pass.
I loved his work rate. Perhaps not his total output, but I loved his work rate.
Yeah. Lairdy rounded out. Oh no, there's one other. Lairdy, 12 and 13 for 25, 5 marks, only one tackle, one inside 50, 7 contested posies, went at 72% with 5 clangers, 9 rebound 50s. I just feel like he's lost his edge, Rory, lately.
Oh, he gets it for a little bit and then he loses it again. And during the and you actually had that during the game, because there were a couple of times we had a bit under pressure, the high dolly kicks, and then other times he actually, shortly after that, he realised that's what he was doing and he tried to lower them, stuffed one up.
Yeah, his last 2 games haven't been that good, have they?
For me, it was. I think there's a bit more attention being put on him by the opposition, and I was. Just Macca, I just think it was good that he recognised that he'd made that stuff up with those high kicks like we've noticed, and he tried to fix it.
Yeah, I think he was forced to kick a little bit hurriedly because he was getting some attention, as you said. And he did get, as he did last week, he got better as the game went on, and he did again this week. But pretty ordinary early in both games.
Yeah, I think for mine, Rory's one of those that are guilty of taking the safe option under pressure. And he's, as I mentioned last week, he's statistically our main instigator of scoring thrusts. Most of our scores actually originate from a Rory-led possession. And when he's just dinking around, it actually really hurts us, I think. And what generally happens is we end up going wide, whereas when Rory's being a bit more adventurous with his distribution and doing those little 45-degree kicks into the corridor and using handball aggressively, we actually look a lot better side. But when Rory becomes subdued and takes safe options, it has a real negative impact, and I think he's got to really look at that in terms of being able to stay aggressive and stay adventurous when under pressure.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. It's probably I think what you said is pretty accurate. And it's strange enough, he started both games, like the last 2 games like that, but he seems to have got his mojo back about halfway through each of the 2 games.
Yeah, I've noticed a little bit with Lairdy over the time that when the pressure's on, it's almost like he lacks a bit of confidence in himself. He does tend to go into his shell, and we saw him in that Sydney final last year. He had a bit of a shocker in that pressure cooker. So he's just got to back himself in a bit more. Anyway, Dave McKay, 15 kicks, 6 handballs for 21 posies, the 3 tackles, the 4 inside 50s. 8 contested possessions, went at 67% efficiency, 3 clearances, 4 rebound 50s. Didn't actually mind David's game.
No.
That first quarter, I was just thinking Big Footy's going to be going nuts because he's playing well and doing what we want him to, because they were allowing our run and he was the main instigator of that entirely. That's why we brought him back into the team to do that, because we haven't had somebody doing that for the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that his game is pretty good, really. His disposal, again, could have been better and should have been better. But apart from that, I thought the rest of his game was good.
Yeah, didn't mind it. He burnt it a bit. Not all his possessions were particularly effective. And he has a habit of not kicking to his teammates' advantage quite regularly, which doesn't necessarily result in a ineffective disposal, but it often results in a breakdown of the chain, and that's probably the thing that he needs to work on more than anything else. But by God, he tries. He cracks in for a skinny bloke. He cracks in, so you can't fault his effort.
Oh yeah, no, I'll be slamming about 4 or 5 others a little bit later when we get down there.
We're getting there, Macca.
Yeah, I've been waiting for them. But Dave McKay, he wasn't the whipping boy this week. No.
Look, other notables, I felt Josh Jenkins, for mine, was the most influential player on the deck when it mattered.
I was going to ask
Yeah.
you, did you go give him a pep talk, mate? You can tell him all the things that you hated about his game.
But you know what, Macca? If he played like that every week, I'd be happy as a pig in mud, honestly, because that's how you want him to play.
I think he was still angry from last week. I actually liked his game last week. I thought there was that bit more aggressiveness that we've kind of wanted. And I thought he just followed through with it again with some nice consistency, that same style of game from last week that he did this week.
Well, my take on it, quite seriously, and I'm not kidding, it really is as if Phoenix took him aside, told him all his weaknesses, and told him what to do, because that's how he played this week, Phoenix.
Who says I didn't send him an email, Macca?
Well,
come on, Jerker.
An email, about 50, I might imagine.
No, look, really good game from Jenkins. 10 kicks, 3 handballs for 13, took 5 marks, 3 goals, 1, 13 tackles, team high 13 tackles for a key position forward is just fantastic and exactly what we needed up forward.
I didn't realise it was that many.
Yeah, lacking defensive pressure for a while. 3 inside 50s, 6 contested positives, 1 at 70%. A couple of marks inside 50 and some really clutch goals. And that, Josh, if you're listening, mate, that's exactly what... If we see that from you every day, we know you're not going to be a pack-crashing, marking behemoth. But if you give that level of intensity every week, we'll be more than happy.
You'd have to be.
Yep. Huey Greenwood, I thought, did all right when he was on. Didn't have huge numbers, but he still had the 9 tackles. Just a tackling machine. And also the 3 clearances. Hurt. Yeah, only on time for 62%. I felt like his last quarter was really good, and I felt like he was used pretty sparingly until the last quarter. It was almost like we were saving his legs a little bit.
Yeah,
I wondered about that because he was so influential in that last quarter. I mean, he was a big factor in that last quarter in us winning the game, and yet he hadn't done very much for the first 3 quarters, and hadn't had that much game time for the first 3 quarters. And you almost wonder if they said to themselves, "He's only got X amount in him, so we'll save it up for the end."
Yeah, well,
I thought we did similar with Gov as well, because he seemed to spend a lot of time on ground. When he was on, even if he wasn't getting the ball, you could kind of tell there was a different look to our side when Gov was on the field.
He was on for 82%, Mitch. I just felt like he didn't have the pace of the game at times. But God, we look different with him in the team, don't we?
Yeah,
a completely different team with him in the forward line.
Totally
but I think that
balance.
was also because Tex was playing Lynch's role, so Tex was pushing up higher a lot more than what he normally does. I mean, he does push up high, but he's normally on one wing, and Lynch is on the other. But he was doing the bulk of it and transitioning across where possible as well.
Yeah, and I think that's what we spoke about over the last couple of weeks with having Andy Otten up forward. It kind of stifled Tex as well. Whereas I think having Mitch there being a bit more mobile and a bit more aggressive, it kind of frees Tex up a bit. And I saw Tex playing a little bit higher as well at times. So just good to see Mitch back in. Glad that he got through the game. Didn't have huge numbers, but still took 6 marks.
Interestingly enough, Phoenix, they were on one of the news sessions tonight. They were talking about Mitch McGovern, and then they crossed to his brother Jeremy, and Jeremy said, "Yeah, the family would love him to come home." Blah blah blah, but we know that Mitch is very happy where he is, and he's most likely to stay there. Yeah. And I thought that was good.
Well, and it's a change in tune from Jeremy McGovern. I think I mentioned a few weeks ago that I heard him on SEN, and Jeremy was very, very bullish when he was talking. This was probably about, I reckon, 6 weeks ago. I reckon it was before Mitch got injured, and he was very, very bullish about Mitch coming home. And I reckon that we must have upped our offer.
That made him a lot happier.
Well,
he is doing a business degree.
Yeah, he's got an Adelaide girlfriend. He loves the club. He's playing good footy. Sees success. The money was an issue, and I think we may have lowballed a little early.
But that's what we do.
Yeah, but I reckon we might just be pushing it up a little bit. So fingers crossed. We've got 2 signatures we need, and he's certainly one of them. All right, a couple of stinkers. I thought,
Here we go.
Well, I thought Kyle Hartigan, before he got injured,
God almighty,
had a mare, and I'm Kyle's one of his bigger fans on this podcast.
Yeah, it wasn't his best game.
But I thought he had a shocker.
Total lobotomy, absolutely.
I think the way that Carlton was setting up in their forward line, they were also doing it to try and disrupt the switching patterns like he and Talia will do, and then to get Lever free. But we had to put Lever on Curnow, and that caused issues.
Well, who was Hartigan playing on, do you reckon?
It was really hard to tell.
If anybody.
Because Talia was on Casbolt most of the time, I thought.
Correct, yep.
So who the hell was Hardo even on?
Good question.
Yeah, that's why I have no idea what was going on down that back line. But also, I would actually like to give a brick back to the training staff. For he pulled up, felt some tightness, and he stayed out there. Nobody obviously went to him or whatever, but this is also probably a bit of a brick back to him as well. Go off and get it checked.
Well, he was getting rubbed at quarter time, I believe.
But he did it before when he did his hammy. He'd actually tweaked it earlier in that quarter.
Yeah,
and the commentators noticed it, and I noticed him going.
Was that a boundary contest?
Yep, that he stretched for, and he went, "Oh, that was a bit twingy."
Yeah.
No, get off, get it checked.
I cannot believe it's coincidence that last year Brett Burton was our fitness coach, and we barely had a hammy. This year we've got a different guy in charge, and we've got hammies going ping all over the place.
Maybe we're getting back on the bikes. Okay, what do you reckon?
maybe they pulled them out of storage. I don't know.
Back on the bikes.
I think it's more weights.
Yeah, maybe. But look, Hartigan, he only had the one touch. I think his metres game was negative 18 because his only kick went backwards. He had one kick and one clanger, so it went backwards and turned it over. Shit, what a game!
Poor Kyle.
Yeah, not one of his best.
What quarter did he pick his hammy in?
It was late in the third, wasn't it?
Yeah, in the third quarter. Because we lost him in the third. So whilst they lost 2 in the last, we lost him in the third, and our backman had to. Yeah, they weren't able to have their breaks like they normally do.
Yeah,
so they had to stay out there longer.
I just don't know who he was matched up on. I can't actually pick who it was. I saw Lever competing against Curnow regularly. I saw Talia competing against Casbolt regularly. But for the life of me, I can't think who Hartigan was matched up on.
Well,
I'm the same as you. I'd have to rewatch the game and try and figure it out.
In usual fashion, he managed to spoil some of our guys effectively, though.
He was no wolf.
Lever did that too.
All right, Jake Kelly. Just before we move to Jake Kelly, who do you reckon comes in for Kyle next week? Just a quick one. We'll flesh this out on Tuesday, but just a quick one. Who do you reckon comes in for Kyle?
I actually think it might be Cheney because of the Bulldogs' forward line.
They got 2 bigs. They got Boyd and Redpath.
Oh, then I wonder, do we bring in Deer? Because he's quick.
What about Alex Keith?
Yeah, Keithy could be, but we'd have to upgrade him.
Yeah, that's all right. We've got room.
Yeah, I would really love to see Keithy come in, but that means we have no SNFL captain.
Oh, who cares about that?
They'll probably play it safe and bring in Andy Otten.
Oh, see, that would be a huge mistake, I reckon, because Boyd is just a monster, and
Andy's not tall enough for that.
No, Redpath is very strong and quite agile. I actually like him a lot, and I don't reckon Andy could go with either of those. And Keithy's got a bit of toe about him. He's not slow. He does. And he's pretty tall.
And so does Deer.
Yeah. They won't do it because I reckon it's too left field. But if you're actually talking about who I reckon comes in and is the best matchup, I reckon Keith is the best matchup.
All right, who do you think they will do?
I don't know. I reckon it'll probably be. I think you're probably right. I think it'll probably be Cheney.
And he's performed well in the SNFL, and he can actually play on the taller blokes. Not too bad. We prefer not to do it, because that's where he got in trouble. I mean, unfortunately, at Melbourne and at Hawthorn, they were so undersized they had to use him on him. So he's got a lot of experience in playing on them.
Yeah.
And he has been really nice and consistent in the SNFL. But like you, Phoenix, I was thinking about it last night, and I was like, God, I hope they do, Keith.
Yeah. Well,
because he does deserve it. And but I was tossing up between him and Dour, and Dour is the bigger body, and Dour is more aggressive.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. I think they'll play safe and go Cheney if he's fit, because as J-Mac pointed out on the chat, he did withdraw on the weekend, so I don't know what's wrong with him. I don't think it's Doody. As much as I'd like to see Doody play, I don't think he's
the wrong player for that.
Yeah. I would actually like to see Doody come in for Jake Kelly as a segue. I think Jake might have just about run out of steam this year. He didn't have huge numbers, 5 and 6 for 11 touches, 3 tackles, went at 90% efficiency, but that's because he wasn't very adventurous with his disposal. Just got caught with the ball quite regularly, and it just seemed to me that he's just lacking a yard and lacking that agility, and he doesn't think very quickly, Jake. So I think it's time for Seeds to come back or Doody to come in, and I think it's Jake's spot that they'll be looking at.
Yeah, well, he is the one most likely in danger back there. You're right. It wasn't a big game on the weekend. Just average, and
he was solid.
Well, he wasn't thrashed, and he wasn't exposed as a major avenue to go through. But well, I know what Phoenix is saying. He's not very exciting in the way he gets the ball back out of defence.
But he got caught with it a fair bit on the weekend, Macca.
A couple of times, I remember.
Sorry, go on.
No, you're right. I'm just agreeing with you.
Yeah. And in telling spots as well, you can't afford your halfback flanker to get caught across the back half of the middle of the ground. It just turns the ball over in such a dangerous spot, and it just looks to be looking for the finish line at the moment, Jake. And if anything, he probably needs a rest. And whether Hardigan going out sort of saves his bacon, I'm not sure, but I reckon Seedsman comes in next week, and I reckon it's Jake's spot that Seedsman will take.
Yeah, whether that improves as much or not, I don't really know.
It gives us a rebound.
Yeah, there's two things with Seeds. One is that you will get that rebound and that run and a better kick. The second one is he probably wouldn't be as tight as Jake.
Yeah. All right, we'll see. Wayne Miller is the other one. I think Wayne's also looking for the finish line at the moment. Started in a blaze of glorying, but then just went completely missing.
Yeah, he started off the game well, and then once it got slowed down and we weren't doing that run, he disappeared until we started to get the run back in the last quarter, and then he came back in.
Yeah.
But he's not really playing well enough to hold his spot, in my opinion.
Not at the moment. I'd almost like to see Galucci come in for Miller. I don't think we'd lose too much at the moment. And Galucci's going all right.
I'll be happy with that.
I don't think there's too many others at the moment knocking the door down, but I reckon the Gooch is one. And didn't do a lot wrong against Brisbane when he played. And I don't think we'd get any less than 12 posies out of the Gooch, which is what we got out of Miller on the weekend. I wouldn't mind freshening up Wayne for the finals, whether he comes back in at that time or whether Galucci can hold a spot. But I think that particular spot is out of those two, and I'd like to see Galucci get a run.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And the other one, who was the other one?
Rory. What about Rory?
Rory, that's it.
I actually didn't mind that so much because whilst he wasn't good at the start, he built into the game. and he hasn't done that for the past couple of weeks. And once they actually allowed him to be freed up a little bit, you could tell that he wasn't used to that. And his touch was a little bit off, but he worked through it. I mean, he did one of those that he hasn't done for a while, that floating across the front of the pack, mark down on the forward line and keep the goal. He was a bit more influential in the last quarter. So I would say his first half, yes, bad. Second half, not too bad.
You're being too kind. He played a shit game.
It's better than his other games he's played recently.
But
to be fair, that's not hard.
I know, but to actually see him build upon it and actually work his way through it.
Yeah, but Nicky, if McKay had played those type of games, they'd be baying for his blood in his head, you know. And in terms of physicality, zero. There was zero physicality from him. And I just didn't like his game at all. I just thought it was weak.
I like the commentary that basically said that he was playing as if he was getting tagged. When he really wasn't getting tagged. He wasn't getting much direct attention at all, really. I think Bolton realised he didn't really have the personnel and couldn't waste a player. So he didn't bother. And I think it took Rory a while to realise that he was actually free. 20 posies wasn't really good enough. 6 contested possessions is really down. We've seen with Rory...
15.
Sorry?
15. Only 15 possessions.
No, 19. 11 kicks, 8 handballs. 11 plus 8 equals 19.
Sorry, I'm talking about Atkins.
Oh, you said Rory Sloane.
Yeah, he said Sloane.
No, I said Rory. But I never got to finish it because Nicky took over.
All right, well, we're talking Sloane. All right, we'll get to Atkins.
Well, Rory was an average game.
Yeah.
Only average.
Yeah. All right, we'll get to Atkins in a sec. Sloaney, he is out of touch. 19 touches, only 6 contested. What he's done in the past when he's been sat on is at least he's got in and under and got his contested possessions were up a bit, but not this week. I just felt it was a really bad game from him. Didn't have a lot of influence. You're right, Nick. He came good late, which was good to see. But he's our premier midfielder. Like it or not, he's our premier midfielder. And he's got to come good soon. Otherwise, we're going to really struggle.
Yeah, you're right, though, Phoenix, when you say he played as if he was being tightly tagged, and he wasn't.
He was looking for it.
Yeah, Kerridge was a run-with player, but not grabbing hold of him and all that other crap that's been going on. But Rory played as if that was the case, and it seemed to take him like about 3/4 of a game to realise that wasn't the case.
Yeah, that's right. Last one, because we're over the hour.
Rory just quickly,
Atkins.
on Kerridge.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of how much he was getting into McKay? Was that who he knew that why he's no longer on our list? Is because McKay still is?
I reckon he was just picking his easy target, don't you?
Yeah, I agree.
But it was quite funny because D-Mac was just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I'm still getting paid $400.
Well, we don't know that for sure.
Yeah, we do. The Rat, 15 touches, only 5 and 10. Not the right numbers for an outside midfielder. Didn't turn it over as much, but
and he
just
missed
didn't
that
get enough
goal.
of it. Yeah, it just...
That's a normal goal for him.
Everything's... like I reckon the Rat is such a confidence player, and it's all gone haywire for Rory, and I think he's not working hard enough.
Correct.
To be honest with you, he's not getting to enough contests. He's not creating enough. He's not working hard enough to make space. I feel like he's gone.
Is that the issue that I've observed regarding the wings, that he's getting in too close?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of the stoppages, but even in general play, Nicky, he's just not getting into position. He's not making the play. He
often sets up defensively at the back.
He was part of our transitional work when in our first 6 games. He was one of those players that was getting off the chain. Him and Brody were getting off the chain and providing all that run. And he's not doing it. And just on that, I think we all forget that Rory Sloane used to be that outlet player as well. in that first 6 games. Do you recall how many marks Sloaney was taking across halfback on those outlets?
Oh, so many.
So I reckon it's no secret that our transition game has suffered with Sloaney no longer being part of that link-up process as well. And to me, it's the same criticism can be levelled at Sloaney as can be levelled at Atkins. I just don't think Sloaney's working hard enough. I know that sounds counterintuitive. I don't think Sloaney's running hard enough.
What interests me about Atkins is that last year I really love that often deep in defence he was that player on the last line, and we saw how many times did he used to just get it out of there.
Yep.
And he'd stop a goal or do pretty good. He's not doing that as much. So obviously we've changed the setup for him. We're not getting him to do that as much. And he was so good at doing it.
We've either changed the setup or he's not working back hard enough, Nick. One of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, you told my line. Yeah, I was going to go the same as Phoenix, and I think it's the latter.
All right, last one, just to wind up. I'll say a couple of names and you just give me a rating out of 10, both of you.
I don't like doing that.
Yeah,
we've got one.
We're running out of time. Eddie Betts.
Very average.
Give him a 7.
Oh, 7. Wow.
A 5.
6.5 to 7.
Yeah,
5.
I thought some of his movement was really good, but entries into a forward line were not helping him.
It's supposed to be quick. Jono Beach.
Out. Not good enough.
6.
Oh, come on, Nicky.
Yeah,
3.
give him a 4, but I think he stays
from
in
last
until...
week. Yeah.
Give him a 4,
He
but I think he
improved on last
stays
week.
in until Lynchy's back. I think my only comment on Beachy, I reckon he's playing scared. I reckon he's because he's so much on the cusp. I think he's afraid to make a mistake. Probably doesn't feel like he really belongs. He's certainly not playing up to his ability, in my opinion. And it's a pity. I hope he gets another game. I reckon he'll stay in until Lynch comes back. And I hope he can just play a bit, free up his mind a bit, because he's a bit anxious at the moment. Sauce?
He got beaten. He tried. He tried very hard. No, I'll give him a 5. But
Brown?
about 7. He's very hard to beat.
Yeah, similar. He did his job.
Yeah, didn't have much of an influence on the game, I thought, Luke Brown.
Still had 15 possessions off his halfback flank, and I bet his opponent didn't get that many.
Yeah, maybe. Don't know. Didn't have any rebound 50s. Had only 2 rebound 50s. Roy Laird had 9. Even D-Mac had 4. I don't know. I'd like Luke to be a bit more attacking. They didn't have Petruski Seaton, which I think really hurt them. They didn't have a lot of other smalls going through there, and I reckon it was an opportunity for Brownie to have a bit more say in the matter, and I don't think he really...
you got to be... Yeah, but his ankle was... He was coming off a dicey ankle, so...
I tell you what, Macca, you can't pick and choose. If you're on the ground, you're 100% fit. We've said that all year, so don't use this bloody ankle.
All right, his ankle was terrific.
His ankle it's not an excuse. He's either fit or he's not.
I'm agreeing. I'm saying his ankle was terrific.
Wait, you two, stop arguing so we can finish this up.
Have to argue about something. What do you reckon, Nick?
Brownie, I thought around a 7. Yeah. He did his job.
7, God. Wow.
No, as I said, my ratings are in comparison to what happened last week.
You stick to your guns there, Nicky.
Oh, shut up, mate.
Don't let him bully you off your mark.
Anyway, that'll do us.
When's that ever happened?
That'll do us. Overall, final say, I as I said before, I just felt like it was ugly, but it was a win we probably had to have, and any win in that sort of clogged up mess that Carlton created, it was a good win, and happy to get the 4, I reckon.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't add to that. I think you described that well.
Of course I did.
If you ask him, he will tell you how good it was.
He has trouble scratching his ears, though, that far apart.
Oh, give it up, mate. All right. Quickly, the SANFL. We lost.
Well, we've got no idea what happened. We had so many players out.
Well, the only reason I'm bringing it up is because it was Sturt and Sturt belted you. Notice I'm saying you. Where are we?
I see Paholke played well.
17-7 to 10-7.
Dude, got 23.
Yep.
It was actually close in the third quarter.
Yeah,
and then Sturt ran away with it. Yeah. We've only got really Hunter as our ruckman, and so many top-up players. It was always going to struggle in the last.
Yeah, and we don't have the cattle. But there's some blokes that need to be stepping up, and they're really not. Troy Mental.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, why do we have him? He's not pushing for selection. I don't know why we have him.
I've been saying that all year.
Yeah, don't disagree with you there, Mako. Pahoki played a right. I think Gallucci didn't have a great game. I don't think Seedsman had a great game.
Oh, interesting. Gallucci for Dream Team points, because I'm looking at the SNFL app, had 87, whilst Paholke only had 81.
Yeah. I don't know how much you can read into that. I really don't.
Yeah, me neither.
Look, the bottom line is, and I was having a bit of a discussion with certain people on the board this morning about this, we have a young midfield and we don't have a lot of midfield talent pushing up. So until we get a couple back, a few more games into Riley Knight, who needs a couple to get up to speed. Curtly Hampton would be great to get him back before the finals, but I don't know whether we will. We're stuck with what we got, and it is what it is. And whether we've got the cattle guys to push deep, I guess remains to be seen. But the next 3 weeks are going to be very telling. Bulldogs, Geelong, and Melbourne.
Not that it helps us for this year, but Rucci seems to be very adamant in the advertiser this week that we're after, what's his name from Queensland? Gone mentally blank. Rockcliffe. He's saying that Adelaide have virtually got him lined up. Now, whether it's just his bullshit or not, I don't know.
I think it's that.
Because interestingly enough, that we didn't bust our ass to get him this year, and he would have been very, very handy to have.
Well, three of us sitting here would recognise that if we got Rockcliffe next year, it would be either a massive about-face from the club or unmitigated proof that sitting down and talking to the club about future plans is a complete waste of time. Because I'd just lie to you.
I think it's the latter.
No, I don't, actually. I don't at all, Macca. I'd be highly surprised if Rockcliffe comes in. Highly surprised. There
would have had to be a massive change in his attitude, etc., for us to consider him.
Yeah, but I can't see why they would tell us things that they probably don't tell anybody else.
Yeah, but why would they make up a bullshit reason?
You've got to make up something.
No, they don't. No, that's the thing. They don't. They could have just said, look, he wasn't available or whatever. To make up a bullshit reason. Just silly. Anyway, time will tell on that one. I don't believe it. I reckon we've got more chance of getting Martin, and I don't even know whether I'd want Martin for the money, to be honest with you. I'd rather go after one of the young lads at GWS. I really would.
Like Josh Kelly.
Kelly's a star, but he won't come to us.
Right. There's always everyone's got a price.
Yep, everyone's got a price, Macca.
I reckon we will re-sign with GWS for 2 years, and then play another couple of sterling years, and then leave for the $1 million ones for the long term.
Well, why wouldn't you want to leave for the $1 million ones and play in a team that's challenging like us?
Well, because if he stays with GWS, he'll get close to the mill anyhow, and he'll be playing in a team that will be challenging.
No, he won't, because they don't have the salary cap for that.
Well, he'll still get a good salary,
yeah, but not as much as he will get in Melbourne or from us.
No, but he still would be playing for a team that's got a good chance of winning a grand final.
Well, they haven't beaten us in the last few starts, Macca, so
yeah.
I don't think he'd be terribly disappointed about coming to Adelaide and bolstering up our one main weakness, particularly if we offered him 1.5 a year.
Well, let you two get to the club and get sponsored and get up there and talk to him.
I just think if we're going to do it, we may as well get a young gun with a few years left in him. Martin, clearly a very good player. Rockcliffe, clearly a very good player. But last year was the year for those blokes, in my opinion. And I reckon Martin will stay at Richmond. I don't think he'll go anywhere.
Well, I reckon he will stay at Richmond, and I reckon the other bloke will stay at GWS. And Rockcliffe, I think, is the only possibility on the market that will move.
Time will tell. He was on 800 at Brisbane last year.
Yeah. And they don't want to pay him that much anymore. And I don't think anybody else wants to pay him that.
That 800, that's not a true figure, though, because he was on a back-ended contract.
Yeah, but even if his asking price will be 8 in the current market because of the CBA, Macca.
Within 600, it's gone up 20%. That makes it 720. So if you gave him 800, you're only overpaying by 80,000.
No, I reckon that there's a loading on that because he's having a bloody good season. Remember, he was a bit hit and miss last year. He's having a bloody good season, and I'd rather play Dane Zorko 800 than Tommy Rockcliffe, to be honest. Not because Rockcliffe's the worst player, but just because Zorko's got a few more years in him.
Well, yeah, I don't think we'll be winning premiership for year after year. We need somebody to come and help us now.
Yeah, Josh Kelly.
Yep. And then he can actually help year after year.
I'm not really worried about the name. I'm just worried about somebody who can help us to get that little extra that we haven't got so that we can win a flag in the next year or two.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a conversation for Tuesday Night Live. We've gone over again. God, we're hopeless.
Surprise.
But thanks, everyone, for listening again. As I said, the next 3 weeks are going to be vital. We've got the Bulldogs next Friday night at Adelaide Oval, a pivotal game for both clubs. And I don't think the Bullies have beaten us or beaten anyone down here for a while, have they? So
no, they haven't.
Nope.
But they'll be looking to bounce back because their premiership defence might just be on the line on Friday night. So, and there is
got to be nice to put a nail in that coffin.
Oh, absolutely.
You are right. I think this is make or break for the Bulldogs, I think.
Well, there's too many teams around about the 8 for them to drop too many more, I think, Macca. And on the big stage of Friday night, I reckon it's going to be one hell of a game. And I bet you anything we get more than 39,000. What do you reckon?
Yep, and they'll have teeth and everything.
Macca.
Just out of left field with the bloody...
With the sledge.
With the sledge. Fantastic stuff.
Then again, it is somebody who grew up right near the port area, so...
I hate them.
Yeah, you and me both, mate. All right, don't forget you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at AFL Crowcast. If you're listening on iTunes, you can give us a rating and a like and a comment and all that sort of crap to help us with our ratings. Don't forget the Crowbar Boys will be uploading and available in the next 24 hours as well. Give them a listen, good value. And we will be back with Peter J on Tuesday night for Tuesday Night Live, where lots of things will be discussed, I'm sure. Thanks, Macca. Thanks, Nikki.
All good fun.
Night all.
See you on Tuesday.
Yep, night all.